Good morning and welcome to the American Cancer Society's Making Strides Against Breast Cancer 30th Anniversary Kickoff Breakfast. The staff and board of advisors for the Long Island market of your American Cancer Society thank you for the time you devoted to learning more about the work the Long Island community is doing together around the issue of breast cancer. Please direct your attention to the screens as we begin a short video.
This is American Cancer Society making strides against breast cancer. It's go mode time. Get ready to make some amazing strides. Since 1993, we've become the most impactful, the largest, the #1 breast cancer movement in the country. We are the movement, the hope, the future. For over 30 years, we've been celebrating the courage of survivors and thrivers. There are more than 3.8 million breast cancer survivors in the U.S. today. So we continue to unite communities across the nation to end breast cancer as we know it for everyone. But there are still more steps to take. Over 280,000 people were diagnosed in 2022. Now the shoe is on your foot. Ready, set, go. Be the movement. Sign up for the walk. Be the hope. Support a survivor. Be the future. Donate to help end breast cancer. Every sponsor, partner, and person moves us one step closer to ending breast cancer as we know it. Go mode activated. Sign up today.
It is my pleasure to welcome your host for today's program, Long Island News correspondent for WABC7, Shantae Lanz, and WBAB's afternoon host and rock and roll enthusiast, Joe Rock.
Good morning. So glad everyone is here today and see your beautiful faces. I'm wearing the pink, I got the memo, and this is for an amazing cause. Right, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, you take a look around the room here, it's nothing but incredible. All the outstanding efforts of everybody here and all the work you've contributed to the American Cancer Society's Making Strides Against Breast Cancer. We're kicking off the 30th anniversary. Let that sink in for a second. 30 years. So, this is the largest walk in the country. Last year, over 65,000 people got out there and walked. And that's huge. Did it in Riverhead and at Jones Beach, unified, and raised more than $2.3 million. And by being here today, you are committing to continuing those efforts, and the progress is going to provide hope and a future for everyone.
So we would be remiss if we didn't take a look at those photos. This is from 1993. They put up there, this was me at Javits Center, 93, at the Nintendo Fest. We were asked to give those pictures and just taking a look back at everyone's memories. Now, you have a lot of ties to the history of breast cancer, right, Joe?
Yeah. So I first got involved because this is a personal thing to me. So I just want to try something here, being we're out here on the island. Can I see a show of hands about how many of you are native Long Islanders? Okay, so on Long Island they say, used to be, if you don't know somebody who's been affected by breast cancer, you know somebody who knows somebody. That's changed, sadly. It's now everybody knows somebody. For me, I lost my mother to breast cancer. My wife had breast cancer. My sister had breast cancer. My sister-in-law had breast cancer. This past weekend, I went to do a show with my band. I needed to call up a musician who I hadn't seen in a while. I get him on the phone, and he says to me, listen, I don't know if you know, but last year I had breast cancer. One of the things a lot that people talk about is when they first heard that they had cancer. I can remember to this day when my wife told me that she had breast cancer. It was January 2nd, 2009. We had gone through the holidays. She had gone in for a biopsy prior to the holidays, but we didn't get a response as quickly as we would have because of the holidays. And I'd come home. I was working different hours at that point. I came home, I was taking a nap in the middle of the day. And as we went into everything, I told my wife, no, it's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be fine, don't worry. You don't have cancer, don't worry about it, it's fine. And she woke me up and she looked at me and she said, the doctor called, you were wrong. And I'll never forget that moment. And I know from speaking to all people who I know who've been diagnosed, they remember when they got that word. And I remember getting the word from my wife. And if I could have, I would take a bullet for my wife, if I could. This was one I couldn't take for her. And as much as we went through it together, we didn't. I couldn't be in her place. There was a lot of moments that were very difficult. I remember when she started chemo and they told her she might not lose her hair, and then she started to lose it, and she asked me, with my experience, if I could shave her head. And I told her no, for one reason and one reason only, because I couldn't unshave it if she didn't like it, and because then I would always be the guy who did that. So I understand what it's like to sit in the place of all the caregivers in here, in the room. And I appreciate you all being here today to try and help fight this, because it's that personal for me.
Joe, thanks for sharing. And we're very grateful for everyone that's in the room. We also want to thank those who are unable to be here physically, who are watching on YouTube and Facebook, and who've been supporting this for so many years. We're thrilled to be here with you because, like you, breast cancer is something that affects all of us, as Joe had just mentioned. And we're going to carry that message out today through this breakfast, continue to do some fundraising, right, Joe?
Absolutely. So every one of you in this room have your own story, the why that you're here. And I hope that Shantae and I can help inspire you to make a difference by combining our whys. So let's take a look back to 1993 when this movement towards progress began. And can you believe that Disney's Aladdin was in the theaters then? So, I look at your picture from 1993. I obviously am a couple years older than her. So Disney's Aladdin in the theaters may have meant more to you then than it did to me.
It did.
But it was definitely something important. Beanie Babies were a thing 30 years ago. But that doesn't come close to the support of the people in the room, all the different things that are out there. So the work that we do every day to save lives by providing free lodging, answering your calls, funding groundbreaking research could not be possible without the support of the many sponsors who have joined us on this mission. So we'd like to thank these incredible 2023 sponsors. Special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Teachers Federal Credit Union. Our flagship sponsors, Canon USA, who is celebrating an incredible 25 years of partnership. MSC Industrial Supply Company, Nassau County Government, Nature's Answer, Nibra Plastic Surgery, New York State United Teachers, sorry for stepping on that applause there, NYU Langone Perlmutter Cancer Center, Northwell Healthcare Institute, PSEG Long Island, Stony Brook Cancer Center. I want to give a special thanks to Stony Brook Cancer Center because they took care of my wife. Suffolk Government, UFCW Local 342. We have so many sponsors here on Long Island, it's amazing. And we want to thank our community impact sponsor, Stop and Shop, and our corporate champion sponsor, Daiichi Sankyo. And thank you to platinum sponsors, Memorial Sloan Kettering and Gulf Oil. and this is huge, we're excited to share that Gulf Oil will be matching your donations of $15 or more up to $15,000 online from August 14th to 18th to support the mission of American Cancer Society, but that's not all. So everybody who walks with us at Making Strides are superheroes. And the superpower is helping to end breast cancer as we know it, for everyone. And now you can showcase your superpower by wearing a special cape. Because you know what? Even though not all superheroes wear capes, we want you to wear one. So sign up for Making Strides Walk, raise $100 online by the end of the month, and you're going to receive this cool cape to wear to the walk. So, all right, who's got the cape? All right, nobody's got it. We're going to roll on there. But there's even more than that. We want to thank you, Jones Beach and Eastern Long Island sponsors, Bolivar's Restoration, Catholic Health, Episcopal Health Services, Geico Local Comac, Galede, IBEW Local 25, Island Coffee, Lenox Hill Radiology, New York Cancer and Blood, New York Community Bank, New York Plastic Surgical Group, Northwell Health, Orthopedic Associates of Long Island, Property Tax Reduction Consultants, Pure Mammography, Restoration One, Total Fire Protection, and Zwanger Passeri Radiology. And honestly, we couldn't do it without the generosity of so many companies. They lend their time, their resources, making sure that donor dollars are allocated to the mission. So thank you to National Grid, SJS Construction, Civil Air Patrol, United Rental, Best Product Sales, Acacia Lodge, New York State Police, Nassau County Aries, College Hunk Hauling Junk and Moving Long Island, Event Pros, and many, many more. We'd also like to thank our National Survivor Ambassador of Making Strides, Zeta Tau Alpha Sorority. ZTA volunteers support more than 150 walks nationwide. And lastly, a very special thanks to our media partners for working hard to keep the dialogue going and spreading the word. Please give it up for WABC 7, WBAB, and VLI. So a big round of applause to all the partners who helped make Long Island Strides the #1 breast cancer walk in the country. This year, Teachers Federal Credit Union will once again be the presenting sponsor of the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer of Long Island Walk. Teachers is renewing their commitment to fueling the mission of the American Cancer Society and ensuring that a breast cancer diagnosis does not come without hope. Let's take a moment to watch a quick video about how Teachers Federal Credit Union is doing just that.
Serving the needs of our members, teammates, and communities. That is why the teachers team is proud to return for our second year as the presenting sponsor of American Cancer Society's Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Long Island Walk. Making Strides Against Breast Cancer has grown into the nation's largest and most impactful breast cancer movement, uniting communities, companies, and individuals with a collective goal to end breast cancer as we know it. We are looking forward to building on what we accomplished in 2022 and making even further strides in the years to come.
We couldn't be more thrilled to have teachers back as our presenting sponsor for this year's walk. In 2023, we will be celebrating the 30th anniversary of Making Strides Against Breast Cancer of Long Island, the #1 Making Strides Against Breast Cancer event in the country. Last year, 65,000 day of participants helped raise $2.3 million for breast cancer research and support programs. And I know with the partnership of everyone in the teachers organization, we can do even more this coming year. Every Making Strides walk is an inspiring opportunity to honor breast cancer survivors and thrivers and raise awareness about steps that we can take to reduce the risk of getting breast cancer. Thank you so much for your contributions and for helping us end breast cancer as we know it for everyone.
Making Strides is an incredible organization. So join teachers on October 15th at Jones Beach for the Long Island Walk, or on October 28th at Raymond James Stadium for the Tampa Walk. Our goal is to raise $100,000, and with your support, I know we can do it. Let's build on last year's success. Let's build up our momentum, and let's build a stronger community together.
Please give a warm welcome to President and CEO of Teachers Federal Credit Union, Brad Calhoun.
Well, good morning, and thank you all. Thank you for the 500 plus people that came out this morning. And if you think about the impact of this room, the advances that you're contributing to in the fight against breast cancer, I would like to start with a round of applause to all of you. Thank you. As Joe shared, Brad Calhoun, President and CEO at Teachers Federal Credit Union, a great organization that's really committed and behind the work that the American Cancer Society is doing, and this walk is so successful. And we are extremely proud to be back this year as the presenting sponsor and to return with our show of support and supporting American Cancer Society, Making Strides Against Breast Cancer's Long Island Walk. And it's exciting to be part of something that is done so well and that is #1 across the country. So thank you all for leading the way. For the past 30 years, as you all know, and we've seen some great photos this morning, I was starting to think back of 30-year photos, and I'm glad I didn't bring one or put one up. But the impact that this movement has had is nothing short of remarkable, and I know meaningful. As you heard from Joe talking about that personal touch and personal impact and how hard it hits to our loved ones. So I know we all have our reasons, and that's part of why our 950 plus employees stand behind this and are committed to the funding these life-saving research and programs that are essential in fighting breast cancer and caring for those that are going through this each and every day. So as I shared, Teachers is committed to continuing to build a strong and healthy community alongside the American Cancer Society. And you know, for more than 70 years, Teachers Federal Credit Union has supported the Long Island community through partnerships with organizations that give back to many causes that support education, human services, economic development, and research. Our team's compassion and commitment to our communities is something that I'm incredibly proud of and joined with a number of our teammates here today. And we recognize the responsibility we have and the collective difference and power we can have in this fight and the difference we can make. In 2022, more than 300 of our teammates volunteered and participated in the walk at Jones Beach. I'm joined here with a couple tables from our top fundraisers, employees across Teachers, survivors, our board chair, and other fellow board members that are equally committed and helping lead the charge within Teachers. So thank you, and a round of applause for the work you did last year. We would not have reached $100,000 without the power of our team and their passion that they bring to this. This year we strive to do more. My team always counts on me to raise the bar and make an even bigger impact here on Long Island and with American Cancer Society. The Teachers team is ready to help fuel the mission in the fight against breast cancer. I'm excited to stand before you today with our pledge of $50,000 to Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, and a goal of raising over $100,000 to be part of that $2.3 million that we collectively raised last year. It's an honor to be part of that. Along with our pledge and presenting sponsor, we're rallying our teammates and members to get the word out, help raise funds for Making Strides of Eastern Long Island, and also for Making Stride in Tampa, so having an even greater reach in some areas that we're continuing to grow. So together, I know that we can achieve more, we can surpass what we've done and what we've accomplished last year, and really make this 30th year, this milestone year, a huge success. So thank you, and let's start making strides. Thank you.
So thank you, Brad, and to the entire team at Teachers Federal Credit Union.
And it's interesting when Joe brought up the stations. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Stacy Sager, a reporter who covers New York City and Long Island. This is her baby. She does this every year. She's always here. She had a prior family engagement, so surprise, you guys got me today. But she's inspiring. Her stories are inspiring of survival, of being a champion, and she's really embodied that and inspired younger journalists and people such as myself, because I look up to her, not only at the workplace, but for her determination to overcome obstacles like that one. So if we could just, even though she's not here, give a round of applause for Stacey Sager and the work she's done over the years. And as you guys know, the American Cancer Society is a leading cancer-fighting organization with the vision to end cancer as we know it for everyone. We are improving the lives of people with cancer and their families as the only organization combating cancer through advocacy, research, and patient support to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to prevent, detect, treat, and survive cancer. Think back to 30 years ago, Whitney Houston's song, "I Will Always Love You," was the top single. The blockbuster Jurassic Park franchise, which began making our lives a little bit more interesting. But hearing the words, "You have cancer," was not the same as it is today. Since 1993, nearly $1 billion has been raised in support of breast cancer research, as well as life-saving patient support and prevention programs. Because of the dollars raised through Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, we have seen breast cancer death rates decrease by 42%. And that's in large part of the education around early detection and screenings, as well as the amplification and awareness around the disease. And because of these dollars raised, in 1997, the American Cancer Society was able to launch the National Cancer Information Center, which is the 24-hour helpline providing consistent, quality, and unbiased information to support cancer patients and their families, free of charge. You can clap. In 1998, the American Cancer Society helped fund clinical trials on the use of tamoxifen, which was later found to decrease the risk of developing breast cancer in at-risk women by 50%, and is now approached by the FDA to be used as preventative therapy. The ACS also helps fund foundational research that leads the development of Herceptin, which is also approved by the FDA for advanced breast cancers. Through those efforts, the advocacy from this group, the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network in 2014, breast cancer patients can no longer be denied or charged more for health coverage based on health status or their history. Now, these are just a few examples of the amazing things that have happened over the years, but the urgency is still here because there are women and men battling breast cancer who need the next cancer research breakthrough. And we need to further understand why people are dying from breast cancer at disproportionate rates because of ethnicity and race. We will hear more throughout the program about the difference that the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer movement has made and continues to make. Now I'm so excited to introduce you to this morning's keynote speaker, Dr. William L. DeHutt. He's the Chief Scientific Officer for the American Cancer Society. In this role, he oversees the strategic direction of research of the American Cancer Society. He manages all of ACS's discovery pillar pieces, including surveillance and health equity science, population science, cancer screening guidelines, and discovery science. Please welcome Dr. Duhigg.
Yeah, I got my hair cut just for this event, as you can see. Now, this is unbelievably awesome. You know, I've been with ACS for a little more than a year, and people kept saying, you got to go up to Long Island. What they do is incredible. So, you know, I'm from DC. Actually, my parents are from Brooklyn. I'm from Flatbush, so I get it, right? My grandfather, Jack Kavanaugh, was a cop, of course, and my grandfather, the other side, actually, also William Dayhut, broke up scandals in college basketball as well as the police department. So there's some books out there about him. So I have a New York relationship, so I like you guys. So, except your sports teams. So, but this is unbelievable. And the power in this room, the passion in this room, 65,000 people at Jones Beach, incredible. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're gonna go on the next slide. We're gonna show a video. This video is not publicly available. You're the first group to see it because you're so special. So why don't we go to that video in slide 2.
I want to show people that there is strength even with cancer.
Okay, so now you're awake. So now I'm going to put you to sleep with science. No. So I want to go on. Okay, so the American Cancer Society exists because there's too much cancer out there. Too many people have been affected by this disease. Nearly 2 million cases a year, over 600,000 deaths per year. And sadly, as you can see, breast cancer remains the #1 cause of cancer among women and the #2 leader of death amongst cancer. So too many cancer cases out there. So let's go on to the next slide. And I think one thing that's different about the American Cancer Society, and as I mentioned, I'd only been here for about 12 or 13 months, and it is such a special organization because we do so many things. So I lead discovery. Discovery is research. Research means very basic science where we make actually discoveries to actually change the field. research how to get drugs into patients who need to get them, and research about clinical trials to understand exactly how we can actually change things, how they work. And then our advocacy. We actually are lobbying. We're lobbying so people can get the drugs and the care they need for the federal government in every single state in the country. We're nonpartisan. Basically, we're lobbying for patients. We don't have members. We're not lobbying for salaries or reimbursement. Well, it's Medicaid expansion, biomarker bills, so people can have tested on their cancers to know the kind of cancer they have. And then we have our patient support. We have our boots in the ground that have probably impacted lots of people in this room, the 800 number, the NCI number, Road to Recovery, we drive people, Hope Lodge where you can stay for free. We are the support. We are people, we are everywhere around the country, in your communities. We do all these things, and that's why we're so important. Next slide. And we're different. We have the volunteers. Cancer is incredibly personal. Everybody has been impacted by cancer. And that's why I think it's such a different organization, because we're so dependent on our volunteers, on you. 1.2 million volunteers. And we fund every cancer every day. We're not simply one cancer. We don't just have one donor. We have boots on the ground. We have our lobbying. We're the largest nonprofit funder of cancer research, $430 million out in grants, and we do our own research, which I'll talk about later on today. Next. So I lead discovery. That's our research side, and these are things that I want to focus on. And these aren't the only things. I want to focus on cancer research in areas that are not as well funded by other funding agencies, noticeably the government. I want to find cancer earlier. I want to find better ways to detect screening, better ways to detect cancer, better ways to prevent it and cancer recurrence. We'll talk about screening a little later on, but in some way, we always give average screening guidelines, but really screening should really be personalized and adaptable. We should be able to tell you based on your own individual risk how you should be screened and when you get screened, or maybe not screened as often. We want to do healthcare implementation. We want to figure out ways to get cancer care into communities and people who are not getting that through research. We want to expand the next generation of sciences. We'll talk about some prostate cancer work. We want to make sure that every community has access to changes in healthcare and changes in technologies, and we want to move things from the laboratory to the bedside as fast as we can. Next slide. So this is a little bit about our grants, 633 grants, 435 million, lots of institutions around the country. Still no grants in Nevada and Alaska, so if you know people there, we need their grants. And our portfolio, as you can see, a large percentage on breast cancer. Breast cancer is incredibly important to us. We often fund grants earlier in people's careers. People feel very loyal to us because oftentimes we had their first important grant. So 50 Nobel Prize winners, and 75% of the cancer center directors we funded on. And if you have an ACS grant, you're 3/4 of the time you're going to get an NCI grant, which is incredibly important. So I want to talk a little bit about our Center for Diversity and Cancer Research Training. We know that people often do better if they're treated by doctors who look like them, think like them, and know their backgrounds. So we have a program now where we have high school students, we also have college students, and we're launching a program with our post-baccalaureate students. That's the period between graduating from college before you go to graduate school and medical school. It was a much more diverse population. When I was at NIH, I was there for over 20 years. I'd often get a phone call from somebody whose niece was at Davidson on the tennis team in the sorority. Can I find a spot in the lab? They don't need money. We'll find space. And yeah, that person got a spot in my lab. That person wound up going to medical school or not. Other communities don't have that access. And so we want to provide support and stipend for work so every community has those opportunities. So when you graduate, if you're not ready to go on, you don't have the resources. Get them to understand about science and get them working on stuff we need to do. So this year, like every year over the last 50 years, we present our cancer facts and figures. That's work that our own scientists are doing. And overall, incredibly exciting. Cancer mortality has now fallen by 33% since 1991, since back when I had hair. 3.8 million fewer cancer deaths since then, an incredible number. But of course, there's still too many. And while our rate is falling because our population is aging, the number of cancer deaths is actually increasing. So this is incredibly the progress we've made, but we all still know too many people impacted by it. Now, great news in cervical cancer, since we've had the HPV vaccination, cervical cancer incidence has fallen by 2/3, so make sure you get your sons and daughters vaccinated. This is changing lives, so go do that by all means. But some news that we were less excited about in prostate cancer. Prostate cancer has been very mixed messaging over time, I think, on screening, and I think we did a national experiment to screen less people, and unfortunately what we're seeing now is an increase in incidence of men presenting with more advanced disease, a disease that is not curable. So this is a major concern for us, and we're going to have a major funding initiative in that area. And this is a disease that disproportionately presents black men. Black men are 1.7 more times to be diagnosed, but 2 to 4 more times likely to die from the disease. So you'll be hearing more about our research work in prostate cancer. Now, but the advances have not really actually benefited everybody, as we know. Although we see cancer mortality falling, we don't see the rates falling between all racial and ethnic groups. And some of this may be due to biology, but most of this is due to cancer disparities of lack of transportation, not near a cancer center, like shouldn't there be one on Long Island somewhere? And gaps in health and digital literacy, financial toxicity, lack of access to coverage, and unconscious bias. It does exist. But let's talk about breast cancer. There's currently nearly 300,000 breast cancer cases a day. That's almost 800 cases a day when somebody hears the news that you heard, back in not that many years ago. And this is 1 out of 8 women will develop breast cancer in a lifetime, and sadly, 1 out of 39 women will die from these. Way too many numbers. There's now over 4 million women with a history of breast cancer, still worried about what will happen, still worried about that call from their doctor when they get scanned or going in. It's an incredibly impactful, incredibly issue we need to work on. And this is the number of cases in men. Over 2,700 breast cancer cases in men and 530 deaths per year in men. And look at distribution. So back in 1993, we didn't talk about it this way. Basically, we didn't understand the importance of HER2. This is actually an antibody that was developed partially with ACS research, which now is much more effective in treating breast cancer. So a lot of women, as you can see, have hormone-positive disease. Some actually have what we call triple-negative disease, which they don't have any of the markers, ER, PR, or HER2. And for research, we're now finding some of the women that are actually thought were triple negative may actually respond to immunotherapy, immuno-oncology, which is important, and have actually very low levels of HER2, so may respond. And so research is being made, but this is distribution of cancer and breast cancer. And something else we're seeing is breast cancer is a disease that increases as one ages, significantly increases. I will talk a little bit about disparities later on, but if you look at deaths from breast cancer, blacks and whites are much closer as far as death rates, as far as women over the age of 70, but in young women, blacks are 4 times more likely to die from the disease than whites. But we are seeing an increase in breast cancer in the young. It's still much, much less than you'd see in older patients. Interesting, obesity is a risk factor for breast cancer in women postmenopausal, but actually strangely protective for breast cancer in young women. I'm not encouraging obesity, but we're talking about that biology is clearly different. So what's driving this increase in cancer in the young? Again, it's increase, a relative increase, not an absolute increase, but whether this is due to exposures, other exposures, whether it's diet, exercise, or other things. So I think it's something we're putting more dollars and more research dollars into. These are the risk factors. I'm very interested in cancer genetics. We talk about rare variants. We know about the BRCA genes. I think it's important that folks know that BRCA2 also gives you a 5 times more likely chance of having prostate cancer and a much more aggressive prostate cancer. So if you know people in the community that have the BRCA gene, it's important that their family members, their brothers or sons or uncles should know about the risk for prostate cancer. Other risk factors could be endogenous sex hormones, having dense breasts or ductal carcinoma in situ, alcohol consumption, family history, excess body weight, physical inactivity. If in this country, if people just did moderate physical activity, I talk about like running fast to the subway or the bus, we could reduce cancer incidence by 45 to 46,000 alone, not counting for all these other factors. So activity, rush out to your car today after this brilliant talk of mine. Okay. But let's talk a little bit about incidence by race and ethnicity. Death rates are 40% higher in black women, even though white women are more likely to have the disease. So think about it. So these are the numbers looking at race and ethnicity. White women, the risk is about 133.7 per 100,000. Black women, it's slightly less. But look at mortality rates. So, and if we go back going further, this is incidence rates. So you can see incidence rates are relatively flat over time. Some of that's we're doing better screening. But if you look at mortality rates, death rates, we've made great progress. but you see the gap growing between blacks and whites. And we go back to 1975, when I had awesome hair. Back to 1975, you look at black and white mortality rates were the same. So what happened in 1975? Tamoxifen came out and more mammography. So over time, just with those first ability for changes in healthcare access, we see this splaying of mortality between blacks and whites and other ethnic groups. So again, this is simply, we talk about access to care, it's access to the right care in the right communities, in communities near where people live, by people who are trained and understand the disease in the way they can. So again, this is really fairly striking information. So, and this is relative survival by stage. All stages, it's different based on whites and blacks by stage. So if you're a black person diagnosed with an advanced cancer or an early stage cancer, your overall survival is different, and different stage for stage, grade for grade. So this is, we're putting significant dollars in research to understand the science behind this and also understand what we can do to implement cancer care better. So something I think people ask about, how important is my mammography? You know, I'm supposed to go every year, or maybe it's every 2 years, depending on who talks about it. How important is it? And does it really matter? And it really does matter. It really matters. And this actually surprised me, this data, because I wouldn't have thought it matters as much as it did. So back in 2021, we were involved in research that shows that if you actually went to, scheduled mammographies, there's simply 3, your mortality was 23% compared to 23% less than if you had intermittent. And those people who didn't have any mammographies had a 50%, you're 50% better than those groups. So I know there's difference people who goes to mammography or not, but going to your mammographies actually changed breast cancer mortality. And now we've done it over 5 years. So if you have 5 mammography invitations, and for each one you miss, people are getting nervous here, but each one you miss, you increase your breast cancer mortality. I mean, look at every one of those curves by each one you miss. So going to your mammography, and I would agree with you, it may not always be the best technology. We're working on research, we're looking at AI, we're looking at women with dense breasts. We need to do better in screening, but this 50-year-old screening technology still changes how long women live from breast cancer. So it's incredibly important, get your screening work done. So we've all probably seen there were guidelines that came out from the task force about breast cancer screening, and guidelines in this country are confusing because lots of guidelines come out. And the task force has actually changed, now has guidelines from 40 to 74, looking at biennial screening. They talked about, did not recommend screening over the age of 75, and did not necessarily recommend additional supplemental screening. So, we support the task force, we generally like what they say, but we have differences. We really think that, and the other thing you need to know is that we are currently updating our breast cancer guidelines, and our guidelines will now be living documents. It used to be our guidelines were basically changed every 5 years, sort of on a calendar, but now when there's data that comes out that women should be screened differently, we are going to change our guidelines in real time, or real-ish time, so within a year or so. So we're working on them now, so that's great news. So. And the guidelines are for average risk. Remember that. These aren't laws. So if your risk is higher for any of the reasons you said, you need to be screened differently, okay? So whether that's, and particularly family history, so my personal recommendation, not my ACS recommendation, this is me as just the guy sitting at table 7, which is an awesome table, by the way, is that if there's a breast cancer in your family or a colon cancer in your family, you should begin screening 10 years before that diagnosis. So if you know someone in your family who has a breast cancer diagnosis who's 47, you don't wait till you're 40 or 45, you start at 37. If it's 42, you start at 32. So that's not based on hard data, but there's enough evidence that gives you enough lead time to think of. So think about that a little bit. That's not ACS guidelines. That's Table 7 guidelines. So again, most women are going to probably begin screening at age 40, and I think it's reasonable to have a conversation with your doctor now. There's something called polygenic risk score, which is a combination of different genes that I think may be able to guide people, but right now it's reasonable to have a conversation. We recommend certainly by age 45 and recommend you screened every single year. We showed you that data by you're missing your mammograms. It's hard to remember when you do it once a year. Bring your friends, bring your sisters, by all means doing it. We don't think every 2 years makes sense. We think you're going to miss cancers that are going to impact how long you live. So we think screening every year is incredibly important. We think most women think about screening in their 40s, so I think that's important to begin that time. I know our guidelines are a little squishy about that, but I mean, I think starting then makes sense. We also don't think you should stop at age 75 necessarily. For some women, of course it makes sense. Other medical problems, if you're not in a situation where you can't get treatment, at that point, screening for an early cancer doesn't make sense. But for a lot of women who are healthy, like the women that are here, some may be older than me, so that who are over the age of 75, by all means, if your doctor thinks it makes sense, be screened, because you can still detect a cancer that can have a significant morbidity and mortality. You heard the word overdiagnosis a lot. There was an article that came out recently, you probably saw in the press. Overdiagnosis can only be diagnosed retrospectively. When one has a cancer diagnosis, you don't know then that it's an overdiagnosis. You only know it 10 or 20 years down the road. So I think being proactive about it, having information about it, we're coming up with much better ways to treat things. I see a world where we'll be able to find cancer, and perhaps we can use immunotherapy only for very early cancers. Maybe it's a blood-based cancer detection. So having information about your cancer does not always going to mean you're going to need intensive therapy. But not knowing you have a cancer where it needs treatment, I think, doesn't make sense. So I'm a screener guy. You know, I'm an oncologist. We're a treater. We've seen what happens when cancer goes the wrong direction. And I think empowering people to understand their cancer risk, and if they have a cancer to know about it, I think is much more powerful than just saying, well, I need to know about it. Let's find out about it and then make the decisions. That's my feeling. So one thing we're going to talk about, we've done these really large cohort studies. Some of you may have been involved in them. And we're actually launching 2 new large cohorts. One we're calling is the Voices of Black Women study. The other, Voices of Black Men study. And really the reason we're doing this is Black individuals have the highest death rate and the shortest survival of any racial ethnic minority group. This will be the largest population cohort later. We're going to accrue 100,000 Black women to better understand cancer risks and cancer outcomes. No one will ever do this again. We're going to need your help. We're going to be in your communities. We need your help. You guys are incredibly, 65,000, I still can't believe 65,000 people at Jones Beach. Oh my God. So this is really, really, really important. And what's going to be different about this is other cohorts were only included people who did not have cancer yet. We're going to include 15,000 women with a recent cancer diagnosis and the cancers driving disparity. So that's colorectal, that is endometrial, and breast cancer. And those women will be through their adjuvant therapy and sort of the curative time, so we can follow information about cancer recurrence and cancer detection. And we capture an incredible amount of biologic information, demographic information. We are really going to be, this is going to be basically the blueprint for changing how cancer is treated for the next generation. So please be involved. We're starting this year in Hampton Roads in Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to areas that have, significant Black populations. You can see obviously that the Northeast is a population like that. So please be involved with it. We need your help. And of course, mentioned again on prostate cancer, we're launching one of our largest funding initiatives on impact, improving mortality from prostate cancer together. ACS is actually a fairly nimble organization. We can go where things are needed relatively quickly. And I'll do that on the science side. So there are areas where we see science, we're going to put dollars in there and put dollars in there quickly. We see it in prostate cancer, so we're building that, working together to really change these curves that are very worrisome as far as prostate cancer mortality. So thank you very much.
Wow. That was a lot of great information. I almost wish I was recording him to play it back for later. One thing I did hear about that, especially from the video, which I loved, and can we give him one more round of applause for giving us all that vital information? A number that stood out to me was, a lot of them, but one that stood out to me in the beginning was the 81 million breast cancer survivors thus far. I think that in itself is worth a round of applause, and it continues the hope.
One of the things I was really fascinated about listening to Dr. Dayhout speak is when he spoke about all the things he wanted to do, including earlier detection, because that is the research. That's what all of our fundraising dollars are doing. It's funding research. And, every breast cancer journey is unique, whether you're diagnosed at an early age or beyond. However, the one common denominator for those who are unfortunately diagnosed are the people who surround them in that journey, both physically and emotionally. The people are affectionately known as our caregivers.
Like you.
We define caregiver as the person who most often helps the person with cancer and is not paid to do so. Caregivers may be partners, family members, close friends. Most often, they're not trained for the caregiver job. Many times, they're the lifeline of the person with cancer. And sometimes we in this room act as those caregivers as we listen to stories of survivorship and thrivership, like our friend Valerie Mortimer, who has used her story as a way to empower our movement. Sadly, Valerie lost her battle to this disease this past March, but her words still linger and motivate us all. In the words of Val, 10 years ago I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. At that time I underwent a double mastectomy, chemo, and radiation. I thought I had put breast cancer behind me. In 2016 I was re-diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, which for now is incurable. It has been a battle for my life, but I've been fortunate to have been blessed with an amazing support system, great health care providers, and excellent health insurance, along with a tenacious desire to continue to live. I have participated in the Making Strides event since 1998, long before becoming a breast cancer patient, because I felt it was the right thing to do. I can absolutely say, I hate breast cancer. I am grateful for the advances made with this disease, but I would love to see a cure for it and all cancers, especially before it takes my life. Valerie was blessed having a strong support system of caregivers. I'm thrilled to introduce Val's husband, Jim, and son, Chris, who will share how their efforts to support Val haven't ended, but continue.
Good morning, everybody. That was a little bit of an emotional introduction for me, but thank you for giving us the time this morning. We were asked here to share our thoughts and experiences as both caregivers and team members. A lot of you in this room know my wife Valerie. She's been on this stage before. She's been in many different speaking engagements as a proponent of fighting for cancer, the cancer cure. Valerie was the best spouse, the best mom, the best friend. She was a great nurse, and she was the driving force of Val's Pals, which has been for the last 5 years at least one of the best performing individual teams for ACS, aside from the corporate teams. And one of her last things she did before she passed away, she wrote a book, Along Came Cancer. She wrote that book in the hopes that she could, in all her years of cancer treatment, her support group, she ran across a lot of people that probably didn't have the same knowledge that she had. She was a smart person, she was a nurse, so she wrote this book in the hopes that people that are diagnosed with cancer read this book, and she knew it would help them tremendously. Anyhow, I'm going to turn this over to my son, Christopher.
So each year, my mom was so excited to participate in Making Strides. It was a great way for her to see how many other people were going through a very similar situation. Having all her friends come out to support her gave her so much energy and vigor to kind of keep fighting her battle. So it was just super, super exciting to see her feel better mentally and physically because of the participation from friends and everyone else in this room. As a member of her team, I saw her become a pretty good fundraiser because she was a mayor by nature. She was a ringleader, but she would essentially force everyone she ever met to participate in the Making Strides walk. local librarian, garbage man, hey, you coming? And we didn't realize at first how funny that was, but by the time a friend invites another friend, that person says, hey, my employer, my company matches donations. Would you mind if we donate that way? And seeing the numbers go up, it was so empowering and encouraging to her. And the fact of the matter is that money raised led to treatments and prolonging her life that were not there when she first started this, when she was first sick. So a little bit of money raised today, that could be the difference between, I wish my mother was here, to dance at my wedding, to meet her future grandkids, another Christmas. That's all stuff that you don't realize. By you doing this, that's going to help you, that's going to help other people. So this isn't about protecting my mom's legacy. Selfishly, I guess it is, but this is all people in this room that have helped her, and now it's our responsibility to kind of do the same back for all of you. So I'm going to turn this back over to my dad one more time, but your efforts are appreciated, and from someone looking at this from the other side now, this is a really important thing that the American Cancer Society is doing, and you're all doing, so thank you.
So in closing, I just want to thank you for giving us the time this morning. Thank you to ACS for inviting us here to share our story, our perspective. I think today is a great day to start a team, to donate to a team. The cure for cancer lies in research. Research is going to be the cure. And the ACS is certainly one of the largest contributors to research in this country, only behind the federal government. So whatever you can do to either enhance a team, start a team, it doesn't take much to ask somebody to donate. It's all they can say is no. But most times they won't. It's such a good cause, and by doing so, the life you save may be your own. Hopefully that cure comes sooner than later and can save some lives. It's too late for my wife, but do your best. Do your best. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to Chris and Jim Mortimer one more time for them for sharing their story. After hearing that, I think we can all agree that Val is a warrior who impacted so many lives. And I'm personally inspired of how you guys are continuing to continue Val's legacy and ensuring that a cancer diagnosis does not come without hope. Now, you in this room are making a difference in the lives of cancer patients and their families. Some people with cancer rely on the next breakthrough in breast cancer treatment. And because of your efforts with making strides against breast cancer, people like your efforts, like breast cancer thriver Stacy Brennan, are able to live their lives. The American Cancer Society defines a breast cancer thriver as anyone living with metastatic breast cancer. And let me tell you a little bit more about Stacy. In June of 2007, she heard the words that everyone fears: you have breast cancer. There are many ways to react to those words when your future becomes unclear. But Stacy's first words were, "This cannot affect our boys' lives." Stacy, true to her word, scheduled her treatments so she would never miss one of her son's games, and she never did. The next 5 years were filled with blood tests and doctor's appointments to closely monitor the cancer activity in her body. During this time, she became very active in raising money for research to help fight the war against breast cancer. In October of 2012, Stacy was not feeling well, and tests revealed that her cancer had metastasized to several bones in the area of her original cancer. Well, due to the finding generated by efforts like Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, supporting breast cancer care and research has given Stacey the last 10 years to live a full life. She's been treated with different medications until their usefulness is expended, but because of the regular breakthroughs in cancer treatment, she has had hope for a future without breast cancer. Her battle against breast cancer may never be over, but neither will her determination to live and raise money to help future generations live a life without this horrible disease. If you would, please join me in welcoming breast cancer warrior, Stacey Brennan.
My son was nervous that he wouldn't be able to see me. So, just a little, I want to personally thank Dr. DeHut. Thank you for everything that you do for breast cancer and for every cancer out there. Without people like you, even this would be impossible, so thank you so much. I'm a little taken back to follow Val's family, because Val and I, we were in the same group together and talked, and she was lovely, and let me just say that Jim and Chris, she'd be so incredibly proud of you today. Good morning. My name is Stacey Brennan. I'm a little bit nervous. I want to make a shout out to all my Stacey's warriors. You know how much I love you. And since Joe started to talk about his wife and how we're speaking about caretakers, I always say, for me, it's a lot easier to be me. I'm a fighter, so I could fight this. My heroes, two aren't here, my sons Kevin and Ryan, but my husband Jim, he's my hero. He's my caretaker. And my son Danny, I love you so much. So good morning again. My name is Stacey Brennan. I'm a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in June 2007, and the next 9 months of my life were a whirlwind of surgeries, chemo treatments, blood tests, and doctor's visits. The phrase, "you have cancer," is one of the scariest things that you could hear. It changes your life, and it changes the lives of your loved ones forever. When I was a young girl, that phrase often ended with a short-lived lifespan, but because of work of the American Cancer Society and the generosity of the people like you in this room, cancer research has given cancer survivors like me hope for a longer life. My story with breast cancer began in 2007 when I found a suspicious lump on my breast. But it did not end there. In October of 2012, while out with my friends, hey Lynette, I felt very ill. My friends insisted that I go to the ER, where a very astute doctor suggested a CT scan. Because of my history with breast cancer, his intuition proved right because the cancer had metastasized to 6 areas in my bones surrounding the original location. It was now in my clavicle, ribs, spine, and sternum. This diagnosis scared us more than the initial one because it had returned in multiple areas of the body. Our fears were quickly erased when we met another one of my heroes, Dr. Andrew Seidman, a renowned oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And he educated us on the advancements that were being made in the treatment of metastatic breast cancer. We thought a series of chemo treatments and perhaps radiation were in the picture, but he informed us that great strides had been made with aromatase medications to help keep the cancer from spreading. He also told us that we would start fighting this cancer like we were reading or writing a novel. Jimmy and I live by that, so do my children. One chapter at a time, he said the cancer would get smart, figure out a way to live, but to be confident that he would have another plan because of all the research that was underway and close to being approved. In March of 2020, a routine PT scan and an MRI showed that the cancer had spread to my liver. Once again, fearing a brutal round of IV chemotherapy, I was told there was a pill form of chemotherapy, started, I believe, with colorectal, that they found worked for metastatic breast cancer. Research, research, money, research. So I started Xeloda. Xeloda's pill form that I could take home, which is incredible. Some days I hate it, and other days I look at the pills seriously and say, I love you. I love you. But it's the truth. I've now been on this medication for more than 3 years, and my last PT scan showed diminished activity, and my cancer antigen has been its lowest in 10 years. It is inevitable that this medication will stop being effective at some point, but because of research, you've heard me say that once or twice, I already know that there are more options available. Over the years, I've been a fortunate recipient of many life-saving targeted therapies. Thanks to the research that people like all of you help fund, I am continually reminded by my medical oncologist that there is another option waiting for me when my current therapy eventually stops working. Most recently, thanks to advances in blood and biomarker testing, I found out that I have a mutation of the ESR1 gene. This mutation makes me eligible to receive, it's a new medication, so elastrine, did I say that right? Okay, so that's the one, which is currently an approved treatment for postmenopausal women or adult men with ER-positive, HER2-negative, ESR1 mutated advanced or metastatic breast cancer with disease progression following at least one line of endocrine therapy. Thank you to my son Ryan for helping me with that one. He's in cancer research. This option is available because of the money raised for research by everyone, again, in this room. The reason I keep mentioning all of you is because even though we might not know each other personally, I love all of you. I do. I am appreciative, I am humbled, and I am incredibly touched by what all of you do. I just want to add in conclusion that not all cancer types are as well known or as well funded as breast cancer, and that I am fortunate to be thriving and enjoying my first grandchild because of the caring dedicated people in this room that have contributed their time and money to further cancer research. Unfortunately, this is not the case for other rare cancer types, which there might only exist maybe 1 or 2 therapies. That is why we need the people here today to spread the word and continue to extend their love network and help us to combat and eventually eliminate cancer. I want to personally thank everyone for their contributions to making strides in the American Cancer Society. My family loves the American Cancer Society. Your commitment to raising funds to help research has given us all hope for the future. Thank you so much, and I love you more.
Wow, Stacy, you are a warrior, and we can't thank you enough for sharing your story, your inspiring story with us this morning. After hearing from our 4 remarkable and inspiring speakers, I want to take a moment with you to reflect on how cancer has touched us all personally, and it's a time for us to look inside of ourselves with quiet reflection to find hope. No matter what our experience with cancer has been, we all share the hope that we will one day live in a world where our friends, family, neighbors, and coworkers will never face a cancer diagnosis or endure the sadness, stress, and uncertainty that cancer can bring. 30 years ago, Long Island came together for the first time at Eisenhower Park to shine a light on the disease and rally around those that have been impacted by breast cancer. On your table, you'll find glow sticks, each symbolizing the light you shine on this cause and for people impacted by a breast cancer diagnosis. A diagnosis often makes someone feel alone and in the dark. For those of you watching online, I ask that you drop a heart in the chat in the color that most closely resembles what we have on our screen. If you are a breast cancer survivor, thriver, please crack your glow stick and raise the color pink. Can we clap for those people? If you are a caregiver, we learned so much today about what a caregiver is and their journey. Please break your glow stick and raise the color teal. One more time, round of applause for the caregivers. And finally, if you are one of the many proud sponsors in the room today, please raise the green glow stick. That's technically everybody. And please give it up for yourselves. If you're one of our 65,000 passionate participants, please break your glow stick and raise the color blue. Yeah. Look around you. Look how much your light, powered by your commitment to joining this movement, lights up the room with this word that we keep saying, hope. Hope is the belief that despite a difficulty, we can find our way to the best outcome possible. Hope is a community gathered together in unity with a common cause to help save lives. We find hope when a newly diagnosed cancer patient calls for support and information and finds a friendly voice determined to help. We find hope when a volunteer pulls into the driveway of a cancer patient to help them get their life-saving treatment. We find hope in the eyes of a caregiver who makes connections with others who understand how they are feeling as they care for their loved one facing this disease. We also find hope in the heart of every cancer survivor and thriver who has access to new therapies and treatment, fueled by our collective, tireless commitment to funding, Stacy's favorite word, research. Hope is being cheered on by hundreds of friends and strangers at Making the Strides Walk. Your support of Making Strides movement and the American Cancer Society is creating even more hope and saving more lives. Whether your glow stick shines as a survivor, thriver, previvor, caregiver, participant, or sponsor, please take pride in the fact that it also glows with an amazing light of hope. There's only one thing more to do after all this valuable information and inspiring stories. That's the plan to join in the Making Strides movement. Joe Rock's going to tell us more.
Thanks, Shantae. So, a couple things to think about right here. We cannot end breast cancer alone. We cannot end breast cancer with just hope. We cannot end breast cancer just by walking. We need you to help end breast cancer by taking action. So, I'm about to make some people in this room very nervous. So you might have been able to guess by now, we've been following a script. We need that because there are certain people who do a lot of work that we had to make sure we recognized. I'm about to literally go off script. So the people who wrote the script right now are getting really nervous. And I'm gonna ask some help from the guys at Event Pros. I'm going walking out into the crowd here. If you wanna come with me, Shantae, come on. We're gonna try and hit what's about approximately dead center in the room. So, sorry I ruined your picture by getting too close. So here's the deal. You're all sitting at a table. You have plates in front of you. All right, I'm gonna figure that this table is about the center of the room. So if you pick up your plate, you're gonna realize that you have all kinds of information here under it, and you also have the team leader pledge. We need teams to come out and walk. We've heard some team names already this morning. Stacy spoke about her team, Stacy's Warriors. Val's son spoke about his mom's team, Val's Pals. You can name your team whatever you want. And they'll give you the help. American Cancer Society is going to give you the help to make a team to raise funds. They'll help you make a website that you can put out there to help it. So look at that right there. Like I said, we can't end breast cancer alone. We can't end it with hope. We can't end it just by walking. We need the teams. We need the fundraising to fund the research that everybody spoke about, that Dr. Dayhut spoke about, that Stacy spoke about. That's what this is about. I know the difference research makes. In the time, all the people in my life who had breast cancer, the difference of the treatments was amazing. From the time that my mother lost her battle, excuse me, didn't expect this, to the time that my wife was diagnosed, to the time that some of our friends were diagnosed, the way things changed, the treatments, and everything that happened because of research. And you can be part of that. So please, take your cards. Right, we have to go back and get on script because I have to know what's coming next. But please take those cards. Make a pledge today to be a team leader, to help raise those funds for research. And bear with me while I find what I have to say next. Okay. So, yeah, I'm getting there. Okay, our staff and volunteers are going to come around to collect your form. So you've got your form, fill it out, raise your hand, let them know where you are. And now here's the deal. After we collect your commitment card, you're going to get a special team leader gift. For our team leaders who are watching online, click the link in the chat and they'll mail your team leader gift to you. So please fill out that card. Put your hand in the air, let them know. While you're filling out the cards, I want to direct your attention to the screen for our final video celebrating our 30 years of progress here on the island. But please, while you're watching, fill out those cards and get your hands up and our volunteers will come see you.
Let's take a look back to 1993. On average, a gallon of gas cost about $1.11. The median price for a new home was $80,000, and a loaf of bread was a mere 79 cents. Whoop, There It Is played on almost every radio station, and the hit TV show The Nanny made its TV debut into people's homes. The Making Strides Against Breast Cancer of Long Island team also looked like this. In 1993, the American Cancer Society's Making Strides Against Breast Cancer movement was inspired by breast cancer survivor Margie Goldrath. Her vision to celebrate cancer survivors by raising funds began in Massachusetts and quickly made its way to Long Island at Eisenhower Park. The Long Island Strides swiftly outgrew Eisenhower, and we found our way to our current home at Jones Beach State Park. This movement grew so big, a second annual walk started on the east end of Long Island, which is now held in downtown Riverhead. 30 years ago, groundbreaking breast cancer treatments like tamoxifen and Herceptin and immunotherapies weren't available to cancer patients, and breast cancer patients could be charged more for their health coverage based on health status or medical history. We are so proud of our 30-year history of making strides against breast cancer, but we know there is still so much work that needs to be done. The reality is, this year alone, an expected 300,590 people will be diagnosed with this disease, and 43,000 will die of this disease. Since Making Strides Against Breast Cancer launched in 1993, around $1 billion has been raised in support of breakthrough breast cancer research, as well as life-saving patient support and prevention programs. In fact, since that time, well over $637 million has been invested in innovative, high-impact research to find more and better treatments, uncover factors that may cause breast cancer, and improve the quality of life for people facing breast cancer. The American Cancer Society is the only organization that integrates advocacy, discovery, and direct patient support to measurably improve the lives of breast cancer patients and their families. Together, we explore ways to prevent or reduce the risk of breast cancer, and because of the support and dollars raised through the Making Strides movement, the American Cancer Society is currently funding over $88 million in breast cancer research grants, of which over $31 million of that is being dedicated to metastatic breast cancer. Because of you, a cancer diagnosis does not come without hope, and a breast cancer journey is not traveled alone. Because of your fundraising efforts, the American Cancer Society has trained cancer information specialists that are available 24/7 to answer your questions and help you navigate a cancer diagnosis. Thanks to you, our Road to Recovery program offers free rides to people who would otherwise have difficulty getting to their cancer-related appointments. And thanks to you, our Hope Lodge program provides a free home away from home for people facing cancer and their caregivers. For the past 30 years, much of this work has been fueled by the National Making Strides Against Breast Cancer movement and the millions of supporters who join us to help save lives and inspire hope in those facing breast cancer. Thank you, Long Island, for continuing to lead the way to end breast cancer as we know it for everyone. We will see you in October at the Jones Beach State Park or in Riverhead.
At this point, I'm hoping a ton of you, the largest percentage of people in the room, have filled out your cards and are excited to go out there and tell your story. And please connect with us on social media and tell others about your efforts. So to close out for the morning, it's my pleasure to introduce Nassau County Health Commissioner, Dr. Irina Gelman, and Deputy County Executive John Kamen.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for making a difference every day. I will leave a little bit more data. Being from the health department, we can't leave any event without a sprinkling of data at least. As of 2023, female breast cancer is the most common type of cancer in the entire world. In the USA, the average woman will have a 13% chance of developing breast cancer in her lifetime. In 2023, as you've heard, 43,000 women will die from breast cancer. Over 300,000 new cases are expected this year alone. The fact is, there is more hope now than ever before. As of 2023, there are over 3 million breast cancer survivors in the USA today. That's 99% of women diagnosed with breast cancer that will survive in the US today. And this is largely, in part due to what you do every day, but also because of screening and detection. Yes, research is extremely important, but I cannot emphasize the importance of early screening and detection. However, there are racial disparities among survival rates of breast cancer and late-stage diagnoses between Black and white women, and this is a reality that we see in Nassau County as well. Women who are underinsured or of lower socioeconomic status also have lower survival rates of breast cancer. There is more work to be done. So I want to pause. I know we don't have a lot of time since it's the closing event, but I'd like to pause here and find out how many of you sitting here today, and this could be a rhetorical question, actually have had your screening this year or have a scheduled cancer screening? So this is very refreshing to hear, but I was hoping to see a lot more hands. So clearly we're doing a lot, but I think there's a lot more work to do, but also work to do for you individually. It is imperative for all women and men to be aware of the importance of early detection and given the opportunities to be screened for breast cancer regularly. On behalf of Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman and the Nassau County Department of Health, congratulations. Since 1993, the American Cancer Society has brought together communities, companies, and individuals, a lot of whom we're seeing represented here today, to combat breast cancer. For 30 years, Making Strides events across the nation have raised $1 billion to support breast cancer research, patient programs, and direct services. In addition to raising money, Making Strides has done tremendous work to increase awareness of breast cancer and the importance of screening and early detection. Because of organizations such as the American Cancer Society, women and families are able to prevent and survive breast cancer. On behalf of Nassau County and the Nassau County Department of Health, we commend the American Cancer Society for their efforts and on their monumental 30 years of making strides toward increasing awareness, research, detection, and saving lives. I would be remiss not to mention an avid advocate against breast cancer, against all types of cancer, a survivor herself, and a real fighter. She has accomplished so much for so many. Jerry Barish, just to give a hand, of the Hewlett House. It's quite serendipitous because this event is actually being held on her birthday. So please join me in wishing her a happy birthday, and thank you for all you have done and continue to do. Please, please schedule your screenings. Make sure you are scheduling regular screenings, and stay well. We hope to see you at Jones Beach in Nassau County. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Kamen. I'm the Deputy County Executive of Suffolk County. I'd like to say that I wore my pink tie because I knew I was coming here today, but I'm actually taking my daughter to see Barbie tonight. And she's going away to college, daddy-daughter thing. But this really is about family. We're here today to come together. There's so many important things that we're learning today. And one of the things we do know is that there's so many great people and organizations that are sponsoring events like this. Teachers Federal, my friends at PSEG, Canon. Let's thank you, all the sponsors, for the work that you're doing and the money you're raising. Steve Ballone is the county executive. I'm the deputy. There's others here as well. In Suffolk County, we have 10,000 employees, law enforcement employees, public employees, Nassau County the same. We're a sponsor here today because we're encouraging our employees to come together to make sure that they understand that they, in whatever role you have, you can make a difference. We understand that by looking across this room that there's people who represent families, businesses, community, coming together so that you and others can make a difference in other people's lives, and it might be your life as well. I was the other day at an outing, and an old friend came up to me, and he looked rather worried. And I asked him how he was doing, and he said he's not doing well. And he walked on. He came up to me a few minutes later and sat down. He said, you know, I got a diagnosis. It was cancer. I didn't know what to say, of course, and I said, well, what kind of cancer? He said, it's pancreatic cancer. We know when we hear those words what that means to us, what our experience is. And the question is, what do you tell somebody when they tell you that? We heard earlier the heartache, the emotion when a spouse or a family member, or in this case a friend, says that they have cancer. What do we tell them? Well, I know that sitting here today, what we tell them that they are not alone. We tell them that there's people around their community that are standing with them that care. We tell them that there's a room of 500 people at an event, at a breakfast, launching, making strides to make sure that we can make a difference. We tell them that there's 65,000 people that are marching in Jones Beach and Riverhead for them and for their families. We tell them that there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people across this country, millions of people across the country that care and are contributing and are making a difference every day. We tell them that they are not alone, and we're here today to remember that nobody is alone when you have cancer. With the doctor and the families and the people sitting here today, all doing what we can, raising our card so that we can help sponsor. Whether it's $1 or $1,000, or you simply march, or you do whatever you can do. I'm honored to be here today on behalf of Suffolk County and the employees who will do our share. I'm honored to be here amongst all those who give and all those who care. Thank you to the American Cancer Society. Thank you for giving us the opportunity in Suffolk County to be here with you again today. Thank you.
Lost my place in the script. Shh. I swear I'm going to find this again. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Commissioner Gelman and Deputy County Executive John Kamen, for joining us for such an important morning. When you join us at Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Walk, you are saving lives. You are funding breakthrough, life-saving research. You are providing support to those facing breast cancer today and bringing hope to those who may hear those words in the future. On behalf of our incredible speakers and the limitless volunteers and staff who attack cancer from every angle, thank you. Thank you for joining us today, and we can't wait to see you in downtown Riverhead on September 30th and Jones Beach State Park on Sunday, October 15th.
All right, that's it. Thank you all for joining us. One more time, round of applause for yourselves when we let go. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.